The law about bodily discharge. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when any man has a discharge out his body, his discharge is unclean. This is the instruction for his uncleanliness in his discharge, whether his discharge from his body flows or his body is stopped up by his discharge. It is uncleanliness. Every bed on which the man with the discharge lies shall be unclean. On everything on which he sits on shall be unclean. Whoever touches the bed shall wash his clothes and bathe him himself in water and be unclean, and then it until the evening. And whoever sits on anything where the man sits who has the discharge shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. And whoever touches the body of him who has the discharge shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. If the man with the discharge spits on someone who is unclean, then he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in the water and be unclean until the evening. Any saddle on which the man with the discharge rides shall be unclean. Whoever touches anything that is under him shall be unclean until the evening. And he who carries any of those things shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in the water and be unclean until the evening. Whoever he who has discharge touches and has not rinsed his hands in the water shall wash his clothes and bathe in the water. He is unclean evening and unclean until the evening. The earthen vessel that he who has discharge touched shall be broken, and every vessel of wooden shall be rinsed in water. When he who has the discharge is cleaned of his issue, then he shall continue to himself 7 days for his cleansing, and wash his clothes and bathe his body in running water, and shall be cleansed. On the 8th day shall be taken 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons, and come before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and give them to the priest. And the priest shall offer them, one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. The priest shall make anointment for him before the Lord and for his discharge. If any man has a seminal emission, then he shall wash all his body in the water and be unclean until evening. Every garment, all the leather on which there is seminal emission shall be washed with water and be unclean until the evening. If a man lies with a woman and there is an emission of semen, then both bathe themselves in the water until be unclean until the evening. If a woman has a discharge and the discharge from her body is blood, she shall be set apart for 7 days, and whoever touches her shall be unclean until the evening. Everything that she lies on in her ministerial impure shall be unclean. Also everything that she sits on shall be unclean. Whoever touches her bed shall wash her clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. Whoever touches anything on which she sits shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. Whether it is the bed or anything on which she sits, when she touches it, she shall be unclean until the 7th day. If any man lies with her and her ministerial impurity is on him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and every bed where he lies shall be unclean. If a woman has a discharge of blood for many days, not at time of her ministerial purse, or she has a discharge beyond the time of her impurity, all of the days of the discharge she shall be unclean as the day of her impurity. She shall be unclean. Every bed that she lies on all the days of her discharge shall be for impurity, and whatever she sits on shall be unclean as a uncleans of her ministerial impurity. Whoever touches those things shall be unclean shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and unclean until the evening. But if she is cleansed of her discharge, then she shall not count to herself 7 days, or after that she shall be clean. On the 8th day she shall take 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons and bring them to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The priest shall offer one as a sin offering and one for a burnt offering, and the priest shall make an anointment for her before the Lord for her unclean discharge. Thus you shall separate the children of Israel from your uncleanness, so that they do not die to their uncleanness. Be defining my tabernacle. This is among them. This is the law for him who has a discharge and for him who has a seminal emission and thus become unclean, and for her work, for her who is sick from her ministerium, and for him who has a discharge, for anyone, any male or female, and for the man who lies with the woman who is unclean.